Getting dot yeah. It's a warm night dot where to. Doesn't matter. We're going to Goiânia, capital of Goiás state, central Brazil. 1990s. Picture this, a city growing fast. New neighborhoods, shopping centers, universities, modern Brazil emerging. But at night, women were terrified to walk alone because someone was hunting them. A man on a motorcycle, face covered. Armed. He'd pull up beside women walking home from work, from school, from the bus stop. Sometimes he'd rape them. Sometimes he'd kill them. Sometimes both. For over a decade, he terrorized Goiânia. They called him the Maníaco da Moto, the motorcycle maniac. His real name was Sailson José das Graças. Between 1990 and 1998, he attacked dozens of women, maybe more than 50. The exact number is still disputed. At least 8 were murdered, probably more. He was a security guard, married, had children, went to church. By day, a normal man, a family man. By night, a predator on 2 wheels. August 1998. After 8 years of hunting, police finally caught him. Not through brilliant detective work, not through forensics. They caught him because he attacked a woman who fought back and survived and identified him. Tonight, we're going to Goiânia. We're going back to the 1990s. We're going to talk about what happens when a serial rapist and killer hides in plain sight for almost a decade. You ready? Good, because this one doesn't end with mystery. It ends with a question about how many women suffered because nobody connected the dots sooner. Let me tell you about Sailson José das Graças, the man who turned a motorcycle into a weapon of terror. Sailson José das Graças, born 1967, Goiás state, poor rural background, came to Goiânia as a teenager looking for work. By his 20s, he was working as a security guard, low pay, night shifts, access to weapons. He married, had children, lived in a working-class neighborhood. To his neighbors, to his co-workers, to his family, he seemed normal. Quiet. Polite, religious, a good father. But starting in 1990, something else emerged. The first known attack happened in 1990. A woman walking home from work in Goiânia, evening, not late, but getting dark. A man on a motorcycle pulled up beside her, face covered with a helmet, visor, and bandana. He threatened her with a knife, forced her into an empty lot, raped her, left. The woman reported it to police. Description: man on a motorcycle, medium height. That was all she could see. Police filed a report. One more sexual assault in a city with rising crime. No leads. Case went cold. Then it happened again. A week later, different neighborhood, same pattern. Motorcycle. Helmet. Knife. Rape. Then again, and again. By the end of 1990, Goiânia police had over a dozen reports of a man on a motorcycle attacking women. Always at night, always alone women, always the same method. A serial rapist. Police launched an investigation in 1991. They realized the attacks were connected. Same vehicle type, same victim profile, same method. They put out alerts, warned women to avoid walking alone at night, increased patrols. But Goiânia in the early 1990s was a city of over 1 million people, hundreds of motorcycles, limited police resources, and the attacker was careful. He never attacked in the same neighborhood twice in a row. He varied his timing. He left no physical evidence. And then, in 1992, the attacks escalated. March 1992, a woman was attacked by the man on the motorcycle. This time, he didn't just rape her. He killed her, strangled, body left in a field on the outskirts of Goiânia. Police connected it to the motorcycle attacker immediately. Same pattern, same area, same method leading up to the murder. The Maníaco da Moto had graduated from rapist to killer. Over the next 6 years, at least 7 more women were murdered after being attacked by the man on the motorcycle. The attacks became more violent, more brutal, and Goiânia's women lived in fear. The investigation was massive by this point. Task force, dedicated detectives, public hotlines, composite sketches, but they had almost nothing to go on. The attacker wore a full helmet, covered his face, never spoke much, left no fingerprints, no DNA evidence that could be processed with 1990s technology. Witnesses described the motorcycle, a common model. Hundreds in Goiânia alone described the attacker. Medium height, medium build, nothing distinctive. For years, police chased leads that went nowhere, and the attacks continued. By 1998, the Maníaco da Moto had attacked over 50 women, maybe more. Many victims never reported. At least 8 were dead. Probably more bodies were never connected. Goiânia was paralyzed by fear. Women changed their routines, avoided going out at night, carried weapons. The media covered it obsessively. Every attack, every murder, every failed police lead. The Maniaco da Moto became one of Brazil's most wanted criminals. And then, August 1998, he made a mistake. August 17, 1998, a woman was walking home in Goiânia, evening. A motorcycle pulled up beside her. Same pattern. Man in helmet, knife, threats. But this woman fought back. She screamed. She kicked. She scratched his face. The attacker fled, injured, identified. The woman went to police immediately, gave a detailed description. Not just the motorcycle, not just the height. She'd scratched his face, seen his eyes, remembered his voice. She worked with police to create a detailed composite. And then, a break. A patrol officer saw a man matching the description, riding a motorcycle, with fresh scratches on his face. The officer stopped him, questioned him. His name, Sailson José das Graças, security guard, lived in Goiânia, had a motorcycle matching the description. Police brought him in for questioning. At first, Sailson denied everything, said he didn't know what they were talking about, said the scratches were from work. But police had enough for a warrant. They searched his house, found evidence, clothing matching witness descriptions, items belonging to victims, and under pressure, Sailson confessed. Not to everything, not at first. He admitted to some attacks, denied others, said he couldn't remember how many. Over weeks of interrogation, the full picture emerged. Sailson José das Graças had been attacking women in Goiânia since 1990. At least 50 attacks, at least 8 murders, possibly more. He targeted women who were alone, vulnerable, walking home from work or school. He'd rape them, sometimes kill them, sometimes let them go. He said he didn't know why he did it, said something came over him at night, said he felt powerful on the motorcycle. Psychiatric evaluation was ordered. 3 psychiatrists evaluated Sailson. Diagnosis: antisocial personality disorder, sadistic tendencies, sexual compulsion, but legally sane. He knew what he was doing. He planned the attacks. He tried to avoid capture. Under Brazilian law, that meant he was criminally responsible. Trial began in 1999. The trial was one of the biggest in Goiânia's history. Dozens of victims testified, survivors, families of the murdered women. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence, confessions, physical evidence, witness testimony. The defense argued diminished capacity, mental illness, childhood trauma. The jury didn't buy it. Verdict: guilty. Multiple counts of rape, multiple counts of murder. Sentenced to over 120 years in prison. Under Brazilian law, the maximum time served is 40 years, but Sailson would serve every year of that maximum. He was sent to a high-security prison, where he remains today. So what drove Sailson José das Graças? Let's talk about the theories. Sailson had antisocial personality disorder, sadistic sexual compulsion. The attacks were driven by mental illness and sexual deviance. Evidence: psychiatric evaluations, pattern of escalating violence, sexual nature of attacks. Problem: millions of people have personality disorders. They don't become serial rapists and killers. Sailson was a security guard. Low status, low pay. Felt powerless in his daily life. The motorcycle gave him power, mobility, Anonymity. The attacks were about control and dominance, not just sexual gratification. Evidence. He chose vulnerable women. He used the motorcycle strategically. He escalated when he felt powerful. Problem. This explains the method, not the motivation. Sailson reported a history of childhood trauma, abuse, neglect. Some psychologists believe his crimes were a twisted reenactment of his own victimization. Evidence. Pattern common in violent offenders. Cycle of trauma. Problem. Most trauma survivors don't become predators. Trauma doesn't predetermine violence. Sailson got away with it for 8 years because police couldn't connect him to the crimes. He wore a helmet, covered his face, used a common motorcycle, left minimal evidence. In the 1990s, without DNA databases, without surveillance cameras, without cell phone tracking, he was nearly impossible to catch. He was only caught because one woman fought back and injured him visibly. This is the most supported theory, and the most haunting. How many women did Sailson really attack? Official count, over 50 attacks, 8 murders. But many sexual assaults go unreported, especially in 1990s Brazil. Especially when the victim fears not being believed. Investigators believe the real number could be much higher. Some estimates put his victim count over 100. We'll never know for sure, because Sailson himself doesn't remember, or claims not to. Sailson José das Graças is still in prison, serving his maximum 40-year sentence, eligible for release in the 2030s if he lives that long. The women he attacked, the families of the women he murdered, they live with the trauma forever. Goiânia's women lived in fear for 8 years because police couldn't catch him. Not because police didn't try, but because in the 1990s, with the technology available, a predator on a motorcycle was nearly impossible to track. Today, with surveillance cameras, with DNA databases, with cell phone tracking, Sailson would have been caught much sooner. But in the 1990s, he was a ghost. And 50 women, at least, paid the price. The meter's off. Goiânia is quieter now. Safer, statistically. Better policed. But somewhere in a Brazilian prison, Sailson José das Graças is still alive, still serving time, and the women he destroyed are still living with what he did. Some things don't end with a conviction. Some things don't end at all. There's an ancient principle about predators and prey, that the strong have a responsibility to protect the weak. That allowing predators to hunt is a moral failure. Sailson José das Graças hunted for 8 years, not because police didn't care. They did. They tried. But because the systems to catch him didn't exist yet. In 1990, there were no surveillance cameras on every street, no DNA databases, no cell phone tracking. A man on a motorcycle, with his face covered, attacking at random times in random neighborhoods, was nearly invisible. Sailson understood that, exploited it, and 50 women suffered because of it. There's a truth woven into existence, that justice delayed is justice denied, that every day a predator walks free is another day of danger. Sailson walked free for 8 years. How many of those 50 attacks could have been prevented if he'd been caught after the first, after the 5th, after the 10th? We'll never know. But we know that every woman after the first could have been spared if the systems had been better. That's not blame. That's acknowledgement. That justice requires tools, resources, technology. And in the 1990s, Goiânia didn't have enough of any of those. I think about the woman who fought back in August 1998. The one who scratched his face. Who gave police the break they needed. She saved lives. Future victims who would have been attacked if Sailson hadn't been caught. She didn't know that at the time. She was just surviving. But her courage ended an 8-year reign of terror. There's a promise in ancient wisdom that those who harm others will be held accountable. That evil doesn't go unpunished forever. Sailson was held accountable. Eventually, he'll spend the rest of his functional life in prison. But the 8 years before that accountability came were 8 years of unchecked violence. And the women who suffered during those years didn't get justice in time. They got it late. And late justice is its own kind of failure. Haig. Thanks for taking this ride with me tonight. This one's about a predator who who used a motorcycle to terrorize a city for almost a decade. But it's also about the limitations of justice systems, about technology, about what it takes to catch someone who doesn't want to be caught. If this case made you think, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories that examine not just the criminals, but the systems trying to stop them. Drop a comment. Tell me what you think. Could Sailson have been caught sooner? What role does technology play in catching serial predators? What should justice look like for someone like him? I read everyone. Share this with someone interested in criminal justice, in the evolution of policing, in the real cost of predators who slip through the cracks. Next case. New story. Same cab. Until then, remember, justice isn't just about catching criminals. It's about catching them before they destroy too many lives, and sometimes we catch them too late.